power, money, fame. But behind the flashing lights and chart-topping hits, prosecutors say Sean Diddy Combs built an empire fueled not just by talent, but by fear, violence, and control. As week 4 of the trial begins, one name keeps coming up: Christina KK Cororm. Was she just a loyal assistant, or the secret weapon behind a criminal enterprise? With witness after witness pointing toward her knowledge and involvement, the question now isn't just what Diddy did, but who helped him do it. This isn't just a trial, it's a reckoning, and the truth may finally be forced into the spotlight. As the sex trafficking and racketeering case against Sean Diddy Combs wraps up its 3rd week, prosecutors aim to prove he wasn't just a music mogul, but the leader of a criminal operation. Explosive witness testimony involving kidnapping and intimidation may support their case. But will it lead to a conviction? I'm Kennedy Walker, and you're watching Law and Crime. So far, over 19 witnesses have testified about Combs' alleged misconduct. Prosecutors claim he used his businesses, music, fashion, and alcohol to hide decades of criminal acts. Combs denies all charges. At the core of the case are RICO charges, meaning prosecutors don't need to prove Combs committed every crime himself, only that he benefited from or directed an ongoing criminal group. Former employee Capricorn Clark claimed she was kidnapped at gunpoint by Combs for not telling him Cassie was dating Kid Cudi. She testified that Combs said, "Get dressed, we're going to kill this slur." And when she resisted, he replied, "I don't give a fuck what you want to do. Go get dressed." Clark said Combs drove her to Cudi's home, entered with a guard, and chased Cudi after he arrived. Afterward, Combs allegedly threatened to kill her if she didn't stop Cudi from contacting police. Clark also testified she was forced to take polygraph tests for 5 days over a stolen jewelry accusation. The examiner allegedly warned, "You're going to be in the East River if I can't get a reading." She recounted another time when Combs said he might have to kill her over past ties to Suge Knight. Prosecutors argue this isn't isolated. It's part of a pattern of fear and control. Kid Cudi testified his car exploded in his driveway after falling out with Combs. While no DNA linked Combs, the implication was clear. Cassie, Ventura's mother, also testified that she paid Combs $20,000 to stop him from releasing sex tapes of her daughter. Combs faces 2 sex trafficking charges. Prosecutors claim he used threats, drugs, and coercion to force Cassie into sexual acts with male escorts. Cassie testified, "I felt disgusting. I was humiliated." When asked why she went along, she replied, "I didn't feel like I had a choice." If convicted, Combs faces 15 years to life. He has pleaded not guilty. His legal team says relationships were consensual and denies any criminal operation or trafficking. This is a Law and Crime legal alert. If you were diagnosed with a brain or spinal tumor after receiving depot pack shots, you may qualify for a lawsuit. Morgan & Morgan is investigating. It's free to check. Visit forthepeople.com/LCDO to learn more. Joining me now is criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Randy Zeelan. Thank you for being here. Randy, thank you for having me. Kennedy, have prosecutors made their case? Randy, it depends on the charge. The most serious one is sex trafficking. It carries a minimum 15-year sentence. But I don't think the government has proven it. Cassie Ventura's own messages and actions undermine the claim of coercion. She seemed willing, even encouraging. That weakens the sex trafficking charge. As for RICO, the government has built a stronger case. They've shown extortion, wire fraud, drug offenses, but RICO requires a business purpose. This enterprise appears focused on satisfying Combs' personal desires, not making money. That might confuse the jury. Kennedy, could expert testimony help explain Cassie's behavior? Randy, it might, but the expert didn't treat Cassie directly. Jurors often dismiss theories that aren't personal. Plus, real-time messages carry more weight than years-later testimony. Kennedy, what testimony stood out to you? Randy, ironically, the government's own witnesses weakened their case. They proved Combs acted monstrously, but not necessarily. that he committed sex trafficking or ran a criminal enterprise. Kennedy. What about Capricorn Clark's story? Randy. She worked for Combs for 20 years. Despite serious claims, she tried to get her job back in 2024. That kills her credibility. Kennedy. And Kid Cudi's car explosion? Randy. That could support arson as a RICO act. But again, it's hard to tie that to sex trafficking. The story the prosecution is telling feels scattered. Kennedy. So what happens if the jury just doesn't like Combs? Randy. That's jury nullification, convicting someone not because the evidence fits the charges, but because of emotion. That could backfire and lead to appeals. Kennedy. How should the defense respond? Randy. By facing it head-on. Admit Combs is flawed, but remind the jury he's not charged with being a monster. He's charged with specific crimes. If the government didn't prove them, the jury must acquit. Kennedy. Thank you, Randy. Randy, my pleasure. Kennedy. Combs denies all allegations. For full coverage, keep watching Law and Crime. I'm Kennedy Walker. As week 4 of the high-profile trial against Sean Diddy Combs begins, all eyes are now turning to one potential witness who could shift the course of this case dramatically: Christina, Cororm. Once Combs' most trusted aide, described by him as the person who keeps everything in my life and my business running, Cororm has already been mentioned repeatedly during testimony. But the question remains: will she take the stand? Her name has surfaced in multiple lawsuits, and her alleged role in arranging, covering up, or even participating in some of the disturbing incidents described by witnesses places her at the heart of the government's racketeering case. If she testifies for the prosecution, she could provide the kind of inside information necessary to establish the existence of an organized criminal enterprise, one that prosecutors argue Combs used to control, intimidate, and exploit victims over decades. But her testimony could go either way. The defense has already begun to subtly shape a narrative around Cororm, portraying her as a loyal but powerless employee, someone caught in the middle who tried to help but lacked the authority to stop what was happening. Several defense witnesses have referred to her as nice, innocent, and disappointed in Combs' behavior. This characterization could be a setup for using her to bolster the defense's claim that while Combs may have behaved badly, there was no criminal conspiracy. Then there's the possibility that she never testifies at all. Some believe she may have already cut a deal with prosecutors, which would explain why she hasn't been charged despite being named in lawsuits and implicated in testimony. Others speculate that she's being held in reserve, a sword of Damocles the prosecution may use to counter a strong defense showing or expose contradictions in defense testimony. Her cell phone seized during Combs' arrest may already hold the answers prosecutors need. Whatever happens, one thing is clear: Christina Cororm could be the key to understanding the full scope of this case. Will she confirm the prosecution's portrayal of Combs as a man who used his fame and resources to manipulate, control, and abuse? Or will she support the defense's claim that while Combs may be morally flawed, he did not commit the crimes he's accused of? The jury and the world may soon find out. As more witnesses continue to take the stand, this case is no longer just about the personal downfall of a celebrity. It is an indictment of power, silence, and the systems that allow abuse to remain hidden for years. This trial has become a cultural reckoning, one that's forcing the industry and the public to reconsider what accountability looks like when the accused sits atop a multi-million-dollar empire. For now, the trial presses on, but its implications are already echoing far beyond the courtroom. As week 4 of the Sean Diddy Combs criminal trial begins, the courtroom is bracing for more explosive revelations and potential key testimony that could reshape the entire case. So far, the government has built a mosaic of disturbing claims: violence, intimidation, extortion, sex trafficking, laying them out piece by piece through testimony from former employees, victims, and insiders. Yet for all the testimony shared, the case continues to pivot on one lingering figure: Christina "KK" Cororm. Her name is practically stitched into the fabric of this case. She has been described as Diddy's right hand, his gatekeeper, his chief of staff, And perhaps, prosecutors suggest, the silent architect behind the scenes, coordinating, cleaning up, and perhaps even facilitating what they call a criminal enterprise. And yet she remains conspicuously absent from the witness stand. Whether her testimony is still to come, or whether her silence is part of a greater legal strategy, remains one of the trial's biggest unknowns. If called, Cororm could either be a devastating blow to Diddy's defense or a surprise witness in his favor. Her insight into the inner workings of his companies, her close personal communication with the alleged victims, and her repeated presence at the center of key incidents could tie together the government's narrative of a coordinated and deliberate enterprise or unravel it entirely if she discredits the claims. Her potential to corroborate or contradict the accounts of Cassie Ventura, Kid Cudi, Capricorn Clark, and others makes her testimony a high-stakes moment for both sides. What's equally important is how this trial is being seen outside the courtroom, in the court of publics.